Hi, everybody. This is Paul Hitchcock, and welcome to Giant TV. Really excited to have Roy Richardson on with us, who is the co-founder of Aurora Infotech. And we're going to talk a little bit about, Roy, what that is, your company, and then also as a best-selling author of an IT book on Amazon. So, Roy, welcome.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in. What is Aurora Infotech, and what are you focused on?
So Aurora Infotech is a cybersecurity firm. We're based in Orlando, and we help businesses identify and mitigate their risk exposure, their cyber risk exposure. A lot of businesses don't really realize, how vulnerable they are and what the threat landscape looks like. And so what we do is we sit with them from a business perspective, of course, and help them understand what that threat landscape looks like, where they have vulnerabilities, what their risk exposure is, and then we help to quantify that in, let's say, monetary terms for them, so that we can go into risk mitigation and put together a plan to mitigate and manage that risk moving forward.
What are some of the common problems you see when you first start interacting with businesses? I mean, you and I have had a chance to talk offline. I've heard you mention the fact that a lot of businesses have systems that either they've outgrown or the system isn't growing with them as the business is changing and evolving, remote workers and so forth. So tell me what you encounter the first time and what needs to be fixed.
So yeah, no, that's a great question. So a lot of times when we go into an organization, we're looking at not only from the cyber perspective, but we try to get an understanding from the owners or the operators' vision. Where do they see their company now, 6 months from now, a year from now? And then of course we look at, how is the technology that is, in that company, how is it scaling with the company? A lot of times what we see and what we uncover is that, most businesses start ramping up very quickly. They make an investment in technology, but that technology remains stagnant, right, in terms of growth. And so the technology doesn't actually scale with the organization and ends up becoming an impediment more than being of value. And that gap between the growth of the company and where the technology is typically where, we will encounter issues such as, inefficiencies, duplicity of efforts. Normally, there are many different interconnected systems that are, if they're separate and interconnected, or if they are connected, they were put together with little band-aids here and there over time to sort of make them speak with each other. And typically, that's where we start uncovering a lot of the risk that's associated with cybersecurity. So, the business grows. Technology remains stagnant. The threat landscape is growing faster than the business, but the technology, the security aspect is not keeping up.
Got it. Interesting. And the difference between cybersecurity and IT, obviously they must be interrelated, but how do you define that?
So cybersecurity, I would say, is, and generally what we explain to our customers is, look, everything that's an IT issue today becomes a cybersecurity problem. In cybersecurity, we envision that as the umbrella under which IT falls. And so, the big issue, of course, is correlation of events. So a couple events that may happen from an IT perspective that we generally would dismiss as day-to-day operative issues, the mouse not working, printer, not doing what it's supposed to do, this computer acting slow, etc. Independently, they're IT issues, but collectively, when we start looking at it from a cybersecurity perspective and we start correlating events, we can start tying together things that may be indicative of, a hacker or an attacker living, unbeknownst to the operator or business owner within their network.
Interesting. And do you see that a lot of times that companies, are they overpaying for IT services and cybersecurity? I mean, is that an issue?
We see, yes, we tend to see where they're overpaying, and in some cases where they're maybe they're overpromised, or they're under the let's say the false sense of security that they have cybersecurity covered. And so part of the issue, of course, is that, cybersecurity is very specialized. It's you need to, it's not a switch that you turn on and then it kind of deals with things on its own. This is a 24/7, 365 type of scenario where you need to be on top of things. And particularly because, as I mentioned before, that threat landscape, the domain in which the hackers, attackers, and cyber criminals operate change almost by the second. And so as we're speaking here right now, there are various different attacks, et cetera, that are spawned that we didn't know about 3 seconds ago. And so, from a technology management perspective, from IT, typically it tends to be more of a set it and forget it. And so most business people and business owners, I would say, think that, because they have a firewall, antivirus, and they use passwords, for example, they've got things buttoned up.
Yeah, and the issue is there are real consequences to not getting this right. And I think, you might agree, sometimes people tend to not pay enough attention to this space as a business owner. And it sounds like you go in and have sort of a start to finish assessment that you're doing, where you're looking at all the pieces, finding any holes there, and then are you delivering upfront sort of your observations and recommendations about how they can get the right blueprint in place?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. So we start with an assessment where we go in and we take a look at, okay, where does the organization sit with regards to what we consider the acceptable baseline for cybersecurity? And we follow the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or the NIST framework. And so we'll do an assessment, and based on the results of that assessment, we then, of course, identify the gap. And then we have a business discussion in terms of, okay, well, these are what the findings are. We're not focusing a lot on the technical weeds. It's more from a business perspective. Look, these are the risks that are out there. This is what your potential exposure is. This is what it looks like from a monetary standpoint. And these are the things that we need to do to sort of get you back on the right track. And now that getting back on the right track could be a laundry list. But we're going to prioritize and say, okay, well, maybe out of this list of 12 items, if we can focus on these 3 right away, we'll put a major dent in turning that needle up towards where you ought to be.
Got it. And what about remote workers? Obviously, this is a big deal today more than ever with technology. We're able to do it, but is this something that you address if companies are expanding into more remote workers and giving the people that option? Does that open up liability, and how are you addressing that?
So yes, it does open liability, and so we work from 2 perspectives on that. Number one is we'll take a look at, we help and we have helped businesses move to the cloud securely during this pandemic crisis, and then continue to monitor and manage their network and their domain so that, it was, through our security operations center and our team, we can ensure that, things are always up to par from the remote worker working at home all the way to the, to where the business data sits. The issue, of course, is that, and one of the things that we don't think about is look, particularly with this pandemic, I mean, we literally flipped the switch, with let's say a week's notice, and everybody sort of had to go on their own. And what that meant was coming up with Band-Aid solutions to sort of, to address the situation. So a lot of people went home. Some people are working from their PCs at home. Some people are working from their networks at home that don't have the same robust, let's say, security settings as a home office. I mean, excuse me, as a corporate environment. Right. There may not be a firewall there to stop attackers from coming in. And unfortunately, although we are told often over and over, hey, don't allow family members to use the PC that you're using for your remote work. We live in families and households, and we know that, computer sharing and account sharing, and sometimes it's just a matter of opening up a personal email account that may completely expose the corporate environment to the likes of an attacker.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to get my darn kids out of my computer all the time at home. Well, what about I want to ask you about the best-selling book. What that's an awesome feat that you achieved. So
Thank you.
tell me a little bit about that book.
Yeah. So I put together and co-authored Hackproof Your Business together with 11 other cybersecurity and IT experts from around the nation. We're part of, I would say, a peer group where we meet on almost on a weekly basis, sharing expertise and experiences, and trying to keep abreast of what's happening, around the nation. And one of the things that we quickly discovered was, that from a business owner's perspective, there was no real guide that sort of broke down cybersecurity in layman's terms and in terms of the different steps that they should go through to ensure that, they implement a proper cybersecurity framework. And so we wrote this book with each of us taking on a different chapter and addressing, in layman's terms, what it means to implement cybersecurity within an organization.
Very, very interesting book indeed. Last question I want to ask you is, who are you working with? What type of business is sort of your sweet spot, and what do they look like?
Yeah. So, a lot of times when you're in business and you're sort of looking for that, we call it the niche, right? This is my market that I focus on. This is a niche. So we do a lot of work with I would say a lot of architectural, engineering, construction companies, manufacturing as well, and as well as distributors. But cybersecurity is such a vast, I would say, issue that touches everybody out there.
Yeah.
That, so we have, customers who are in the legal industry, who are in hospitality, who are, across different gamuts. I mean, and the thing is this with cybersecurity is first of all, there's no one solution that is the magic pill. So it's a combination. You have to take a layered approach. But one of the things that we specialize in is understanding our customers' specific environments, understanding their needs, their goals, and then we custom tailor the solution to address their specific scenario.
Love it. Love it. Roy, incredible information. Always fascinating talking with you, learning more about your business. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for coming on. And I look forward to furthering this discussion as we go down the road.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Paul, and thank you for all you do, and keep plugging away.
All right. Thanks, Roy.
Thank you.